Hello Bishes, welcome back to my channel. So for today's video, I wanted to talk about how I make my own self-published books because look what came in the mail. I have Doodle Bishes, I have Succubishes Volume 2, and I have Vera the Siren, and these are all comics that I made on my Instagram account, which you can find here on Mew Tripled. And basically, after making comics for pretty much free, I can now have a way to monetize them by printing them out into physical books. So first, I will be selling them at Lightbox Expo, so if you plan to stop by, make sure to give me a visit. And afterwards, I do plan to reopen my Etsy store or open an online shop again to sell my merch and these books. So I wanted to teach you all how to do that yourself today as well, because I feel like a lot of artists need more ways to monetize their art, and making an art book or a comic book or, you know, some sort of printed book is definitely one option you can take. So the way that I made these books was through a service called mixam, which is a printing service online which you can upload your files and print them out into books just like this. So that's what I'm going to walk you all through into today's video. But first, here are some things you should think about before self-publishing. So first, you might be wondering, why do I need to self-publish a book? Like, what's the purpose of this, or what might this add to in my life? Well, if you're someone who, you know, creates a lot of artwork and you're looking for a way to monetize it, that is one way that you can start, is by selling your books through your online shop or through conventions. And if you don't want to do that, you can also just gift it to somebody. If there's somebody out there who really just wants your art, or you just want to print a photo book, you could do that too. Or the third option is you can also use this as a portfolio piece. If you want to put in your best work and have this finalized book to show to your potential employer, that is another option. Or the fourth option is you can just keep it to yourself because you just want a physical copy of your work. And with everything being digital in this day and age, I don't blame you for wanting some sort of physical option of your art. So mixam is actually a service I discovered a few years ago because a lot of my classmates and colleagues actually recommended this printing service for me if I ever wanted to print my comics or sell prints. Mixam was definitely one of the options, but I just did not think of it too deeply back then when I was just first starting off in my career. And finally I decided to take the leap of faith, and I literally have no regrets. I think that these came out in such great quality for, you know, the basic options that I chose. And if you're somebody who just literally wants the basics, mixam is a great service, and there's also a lot of options to really elevate the quality of your printed work if that is what you want to do. So thank you mixam for collaborating with me on today's video, and I will all walk you through how you can start self-publishing your own books. So one of the things that I do recommend you try out first is going through their quote calculator, which is basically a way you can find out how much your book is going to cost per copy. So the way that you do this is you can just play around with the different options, and you might realize that, hey, if I want to print a square book, that's going to be more expensive than an A5 size book or something. Do I really want to make this a square book, or does it work better as a A5 book? I don't know, because for me, I have a lot of square comics. So using the square option was kind of almost the only feasible option for me to do without changing too much of my pre-existing artwork. But if you do have no work yet and you're just trying to be like, oh, I want to make a book, I don't know where to start, so maybe I'll just see what my options are first, that's when you can play with the quote calculator. So that is kind of the first step I recommend, is to just see what you can work with material wise and dimension wise. And mixam has a lot of options to make your artwork, you know, on really high quality paper or really high quality covers. And you know, honestly, I personally did not find myself needing to do that. I stuck with the most basic options they provided, and I personally feel like my books still came in pretty high quality. So really, it's up to you and how much you want to spend. So after you figure out what size your book is going to be, there are templates that you can literally download from mixam that they provide to you for free. And basically, once you download these templates, you can make sure how your work is going to fit within these guidelines. So usually when you download them, you will have a cover, a back cover and a left inside page and a right inside page. So you want to make sure that, you know, the way that you format your work inside the book is going to fit accordingly with the appropriate page. So if you have a cover, make sure that you're working with the cover template, and if you know this page is going to be a left or right side inside page, just make sure the work aligns with that. So one tip I will recommend is to make sure you are keeping track of what is on the left page and what is on the right page, because it's a little bit tedious. I know, I've been through it myself, but I lived and I learned, and once you get the hang of it, it's gonna come to you like second nature. So when you are starting a book, usually the inside contents of your book will start on the right inside page. And then from that point onward, you can then format the rest of your book and proceed with left, right afterwards. It's just, that is the first trick of this whole self-publishing route. So yeah, after you are done with that, you then want to save each individual page. So I recommend just doing this by individual pages. You don't want to do this by spreads. So one page is literally just like one page. One spread is kind of like 2 pages, and I feel that doing one page at a time is a lot easier. So when you save out your pages, you want to label them as page1.pdf, page2.pdf, page3.pdf, because mixam does prefer PDF pages. So if you can export them as PDFs individually, that would be great. However, I will say I've had some problems uploading mine through PDFs because it just took too long, and it just was not really that worth it, because for me, I did not foresee the quality playing that much of a huge difference whether if I uploaded them as JPEGs or PDFs. But for you, maybe that might matter if you're doing a very high quality art book or something. So if that is the case for you, I would definitely recommend trying to export your files as PDFs, but again, they do accept other options. Just know that there might be quality consequences with those. So yeah, label them as page numbers.pdfs, and you will also want to keep in mind for the cover, you just label it as cover.pdf, back cover.pdf, and you will also have to upload a spine if you plan to do a perfect binding or flat lay type of book. So for me personally, I wanted my book to be that way, so I had to upload a spine, but you usually don't figure out what the spine is until you know how many pages you're going to be uploading, because that will determine the thickness of your book. So after you calculate your quote, you're going to upload your files. This is when the importance of your file names come to play, because if you uploaded your files with the names as I mentioned earlier, the way that your files upload will automatically just drop into their respective page numbers. So if you uploaded something with page 1, it'll go inside page 1 automatically. Page 2, it'll drop in page 2 automatically. If you labeled it as cover, it will drop in the cover automatically. So I would say that mixam definitely has a great way of processing the files that you upload and knowing where to drop them in. But of course, errors still sometimes happen. So they do have a phone number and chat service that you can contact if you ever experience any issues uploading your work. I personally also had to call mixam like one time just to like talk about the way that my panels were aligning with their bleed lines or something like that. So if you do feel like you need to talk to someone to get more clarity with your uploading process, there's someone available to talk to. So then after you upload your work, you know, you can also reposition anything if you feel like you need to, but there are 2 options to proofread your book before you send it to yourself or deliver it and order it. So they do have one proof, which is the official proof that will be printed from them, and this is just kind of the physical copy that they will be using to print, and it will take a few minutes to generate, but you just click on the proof option and eventually you'll get this PDF that you can save, and you can look at every page very closely to make sure that, hey, this is exactly what I want printed, blah blah blah. And there's also a preview option that lets you just do like a mock-up preview of your book as if you're flipping through it, so you can click through that as well to get a preview of what your book could look like if you're just reading it in person and what pages each page will be on. So it's a great way to kind of just double check your book before you officially order it. And before you even order it to yourself, you have to confirm that you checked everything, you proofread everything. So it's a great way to hold you accountable to make sure that you did what you needed to do on your end, so that once it's printed, you limit as many errors as much as possible. So after you confirm that, then you can pretty much put in your information and then order your book. So for me, I am someone that personally likes to just order a proof first, even though that might cost a little bit more upfront. And then I will do the bulk order afterwards, because I just want to make sure, again, that this first proof is going to look okay before I just commit to ordering 100 of them. But after you wait a few weeks and it finally comes in the mail, that is when the exciting part happens, when you can see your book in the flesh for the very first time. Okay, so this is the part where I'm gonna just do a very brief review of what I ended up getting in the mail from mixam. So again, I have 3 different copies. So after you receive your proofs in the mail, that's when you're gonna wanna just do another proofread of them, because, you know, of course, even though you input one thing online, you never know what you're going to get physically. So I would just triple check it by this point by reading through your book at least once, as if you are the audience member. So I'll do a little brief review of my personal products that I got from mixam so that you can see what you will be getting also. So on the left side of the screen, I'm just going to leave the dimensions and materials used to create the respective zine. And even though I used the zine option, they do print out like little books or booklets. And one thing that I will say I enjoyed the moment I pulled the book out was its smooth finish on the covers, because I chose the satin material, which honestly was the same price as just a regular cover with nothing special done to it. It was a nice balance of just being smooth and not overly glossy and somewhat matte, so you see there's no reflection of the light on it really. And then when I flip in the inside, honestly everything uploaded pretty well for JPEGs. The quality wasn't really compromised, and of course again, do this at your own discretion, but it came out pretty good. So next is the Doodlebish's book, and I didn't realize I chose the 80-pound text uncoded for the interior pages of this book, which is totally fine. It was just something I didn't realize until now, because when I go in the inside of the pages, I notice it is a little bit less smooth than the Vera the Siren zine or the Succubishes Volume 2, which I will show after this, but it did come out a little bit thicker for being only 112 pages versus the Succubishes zine, which is the next one. I have 124 sides, but the interior is 80-pound text satin, and this book actually came out slightly thinner than the Doodlebish's book. So that's just, again, not a problem on my end, but it's something you might want to take note of if you intend on having a thinner book or a thicker book. Honestly, it didn't really affect the cost that much for me on my end. I don't even think it changed it. But yeah, overall, I would definitely say that all of the books arrived in pretty good condition, and I'd highly recommend mixam to anyone who's interested. Anyway, that's pretty much how I made these self-published books with mixam. And if you want to make your own book, whether if it's to sell, gift, or use as your own portfolio, well, there's another option for you. So I hope you enjoyed watching this video, and I hoped it helped some of you out. Thank you again, mixam, for collaborating on this video, and I will see you all in the next one. So peace out and stay wholesome, bitches.